Act, which Senator Thune, the focus was always federally recognized tribes. But now at ANA, our focus is also state recognized tribes, Native urban populations or organizations, Native nonprofits, Native Hawaiians, and the Pacific Basin region, which would include, we have a large portfolio of folks and populations that we provide discretionary funding to. The goal and mission of ANA is to promote self-sufficiency for Native Americans by providing discretionary grant funding. Can I just ask how many of you are familiar with ANA and our funding? Okay. You know what also would be nice would be to have you introduce where you're from also. I guess since we have a smaller group, I'll just real quickly, ANA, that's what we're known for primarily is our discretionary funding. And I'm going to go into a little bit more details on that, but if you don't mind, I'm going to ask you to introduce yourself and what program that you're with and share whatever you like.
Good morning. My name is Betty.
My name is Olivia Grass. I'm Compliance Officer in the Contest and Grass Department.
Oh. Oh. Sorry. Oh, well.
My name is Steve Booter. My name is John Swift. With the event office.
This is so stupid.
My name is Tim Potts. I'm with USDA Rural Development, and we're here looking for opportunities to have ANA fund portions of our.
Katie here, also with USDA Rural Development for community facility and water. In-house counsel for the Oklahoma Tribe Chief of Staff.
I'm Debbie Booker, I'm the Director of Higher Education.
Morning, I'm Dolores Clear, the Oklahoma Tribe Health Administrator, and we formerly had a meeting.
Council representative, Western District, Sheriff for that.
I'm Christine Martinez.
April Vermont, Crazy Horse School Board member. I think it's ANA, sounds around. Project for trauma.
Craig Lee, an agency at the Department of Labor called the Office of Federal Contract Compliance Programs. We protect against the program that we talked about after the commission. That talks about Indian, which I wanted to try to go around the country and talk about it more, so more Indian tribes and Native Americans generally know about it.
Would you mind introducing yourself?
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm Karen Eagle, and I work for the Wallacey Tribe as a media relations specialist. So I'm getting all this out
Great.
on our website and stuff.
Thank you. So I think and see and our grant that we have the largest amount of. There's so much flexibility in this that's why I wanted to focus on this specifically, since what the topic is agriculture. And what I love about the flexibility in this is that we can incorporate our culture and our languages into our grants, which is why I believe so many projects are successful. Our funding is up to 3 years, up to $350,000 a year, with a 20% match, which can be in kind. Our funding opportunities will be available in January for social and economic. A bit more about that. Just some of the areas that can be used, the funding, but it's not limited to protection of cultural sites and heritage, early childhood education, food sovereignty, a lot of intergenerational activities that come along with our grants, economic development, career building, and sustainable growth. Presented earlier this week with the Assistant Secretary of the Interior on the human trafficking and murdered and missing Indigenous populations. And this funding can also be used for tribes to create a project to address human trafficking, data collection for MMIW. So, I mean, there's just so much flexibility. That's the social development versus the economic development. So just keep that in mind. You can combine and have social and economic development in your project also. If you go to ANA's website, you can see our current funding and look at the projects. There are some fantastic projects across there and just a variety of different topics that they are addressing and priorities. The other funding opportunity I wanted to talk to you about is our Environmental Regulatory Enhancement Grant, or ERE. This is our most underutilized funding, and I'd like to see, we did have more applications this year. I think we had 9. Historically, we get under 5 usually, but this is for, you have to have land to be able to regulate your tribes with resources to develop legal, technical, and organizational capacities for protecting your natural resources, your environments, and which is so important. I mean, we know our lands, we are the best stewards of our lands. This is to help our tribes to develop their codes, to be able to enforce your environmental. We have monitoring wildlife. They've been able to purchase equipment, ATVs, so they can go out in the terrain and tribes where the elk is very sacred and part of their, very important part of their culture. So they're tracking it, and also for economics, they have hunting. So they've just been able to track the size of the herd, the patterns of the herd, and so there's really just there's just so much you can do with our ERE. Doesn't have as much flexibility as the SEDS, but there's a lot that can be done with these 2 funding resources. Is any of this new information to you?
What about protection of natural environments? Does that include water?
Yes.
What about the mining that's going on?
On your land, it is to protect your land, yes. And they have codes and enforce it, yes. Yep. Very good question. Did everybody hear the question?
Who's enforcing the codes?
The tribe review. On your land, you enforce it on your land, yep. So I wanted to show some of the current grants that we have specific to agriculture, and I've been able to visit some of them. Indigibaby project is in Minneapolis, and they are using their traditional foods, and I was actually able to try some of the baby foods. It's fantastic, wild rice based, berry based. And they're getting it into the commercial market. That's through one of our grants. Let's see, I went to Hawaii and I visited their food to table grant and their food sovereignty, and they are in the market with some of the local health facilities that have natural healing, as well as they have a farmer's market, and they started with youth internships, learning their traditional foods, and it is amazing. You can go to our website and see what they've done. I went to Guam, and they have one of our food to table food sovereignty grants also, and they were able to introduce in the market, the supermarket, in Alaska, where they have a lot of challenges with the terrain. They're able to connect, able to have innovative ways to grow. Bring our culture, bring innovation into it, and be able to have our traditional food. It did increase, and with a continuing resolution, that is our native language grants. So those are the 3 program areas. How you score, scoring system. So it isn't necessarily by regions, it's by how you score. We offer, it's really to apply for a grant so that probably either late January or early February. To help you understand the full-on of the right for the Congress. We're in our 45th year since we was created. I was at hearing. And the allowance of our culture.
Rights Program. INAER 1 844 206 844 206 1836. And my name is Craig Lee. I'm the director of OFCCP. And my email address, in case that other one didn't work, to try to promote our Indian and Native American rights program. I'll give you a little background on my agency, because what I found is many people don't know what my agency does unless they work in that field. We basically regulate federal contractors. Well, my agency, in terms of color, sex, and also recently added sexual orientation and gender identity, as well as religion and national origin. And in addition to that, we enforce 2 statutes. One is the Rehabilitation Act, which is the Americans with that requires affirmative action based on disability status. Advisor director. I saw that over the past decade, the agency had been very successful in reducing discrimination based on race and gender. Contract was when we looked at race and gender, we all one area that another one is veteran status. One thing, there's 2 ways we look at Native Americans. One is politically, and one is by race. Statistics. One thing that we found is that often we don't include Native Americans in the remedies when there's discrimination. My staff, any category protect, except we have a 4.9% goal. You're allowed to and recognize Indian tribes. You can also programs that work in American-owned companies, and also to try to hire Native Americans in employment that we enforce. But that number and that email I gave you, if you're interested in the Buy Indian Act, that goes to someone named Teresa Lujan. Some of you may know. Teresa is the head of the INTER program. She couldn't be here this morning. And so you would need to email her or call her. But she can provide you that information and the contact. She's also connected to all the taros. And she is someone who knows anything you would like to know about the Buy Indian Act. Even though we don't really enforce it as an agency, she has all the contacts to help you. What I'm here to talk about is the Indian Preference Program that's enforced by OCCP, which is it's not a mandatory program. It's an optional program, but it's one we're trying to encourage companies to do, which is whether or not you fall under, whether or not you have a contract with the Department of the Interior, whether or not you're doing work on an Indian reservation or not that might fall under the Buy Indian Act, if you're a federal contractor near an Indian reservation, you are allowed to have a preference program to hire Native Americans if you're a federal contractor. Encourage that program. Also, we want to encourage Native Americans to contact our agency because we can help put you in contact with federal contractors and with federal contractors themselves that are participating in our program. We'd like you to contact us as well and try to work to set up an Indian preference hiring program. We want to encourage that. And 3, if you are an Indian tribe or you're a Taro and you would like to have a relationship with us, we would like to have a relationship with you. And we will come to your meetings and we will do this speech and we would have more people. There was some difficulty with travel and Teresa's not feeling well, which is why she's not here, but she would typically come and she could do a whole day with your tribal leadership if you'd like. And we support that. We'll fund that so that she can come and meet with you and talk about if for the tribal leadership, if you want to get more contractors to have Indian preference programs, hiring programs for members of your tribe, we can help in that regard.
You're talking non-Indian and Native contractors.
Yes. Thank you. It's for it could be the biggest companies in the United States. It doesn't have to, it could be publicly traded companies. It doesn't have to be a Native-owned company.
How many contractors do you have
25,000.
that are actively participating?
No, but that's why I'm here. I'm trying to go and speak to get more contractors to do this. So
how many have you signed up?
well, Teresa could give you better information. A lot of companies, she's talked to a lot of companies, but we don't have many companies doing this program because it's not well known. It only started, I believe, in 2013. And it just has not, it's never been a focus of the agency until recently.
So how many primes do you have signed up? Prime contractors, like Kiewits, Halliburtons.
We're not measuring that right now. That's what we're trying to change. So what happened was, I was told when I became director a year ago that we had no one participating. Although now I've learned that that's not necessarily true. We just don't catalog it. So the companies are encouraged to have an Indian preference program, hiring program, but they don't tell us if they do. So we're changing all that. That's why I'm here. And that's why we did a Native American town hall in Phoenix about a month ago, because we're trying to revamp the program. So I'm hoping when I come back in a year, for example, I will be able to tell you a number.
So
I just started. I mean, I've only been director for a year, and I saw that this program was underutilized.
So how are you recruiting the primes?
Well, Teresa is going to the Taros.
Darn Teresa.
I apologize. But send me an email, and I'll send you a list of everything we're doing.
Okay.
I apologize. She's not feeling well, so I'm sorry. She's great. She's a wonderful person. She may even be here later. I think she was here yesterday. She's not feeling well.
You have any in South Dakota right now?
Anyone participating in the program?
Yeah.
Yes, we have a relation. I'm going right now to the right after this to the Northern Plains Tarot 2019 fall meeting, but I don't have the specifics.
You don't have a list.
I don't have a list.
If I can add. to
I'll meet
this,
him there, and then we'll ask him from the Tarot Commissioners.
So if I can add that also, if you mind.
No.
And if you want to talk also about a little bit of the education and the clarification that you've had to give to the difference between race-based versus political-based to the contractors, so I don't
Yes.
feel they're out of compliance. But an issue that was brought up that we've all known about for years is that there is no list other than the SBA 8A of Native-owned products, businesses, and services that can be provided. And that's one of the areas that contractors wanted to know. Well, how do we know what's available in the communities? And you can, of course, work through the Tarot. So I've reached out to NCAI as well as NCAID, which are the folks that run the RES conferences. And we've met a few times, and we're going to talk again about how can we move forward self-reporting of Native-owned businesses and products and have a procurement list for contractors to know where to go to.
There you go. You contact us, we'll help you.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
That's my goal is to do just that, is to publish a list of all the contractors that are participating in our program. The reason why I made this a focus is because when I learned about the inner program about 7 months ago, I asked, well, how many companies are participating? I was told we don't know. And I thought that was a problem. So we need to fix it, and I apologize for that. That's what I'm trying to do. And you know, it's a problem because we shouldn't, and it's the same thing I saw with people with disabilities and also with veterans. The agency was so focused on just 2 areas, and we were under focused on other areas that were as important. So I should be able to come here and tell you a list of companies that participate in this program, and I can't. And so I'm sorry about that.
But what's the incentive for them?
The incentive is to be able to have a pipeline to hire people immediately without having, the issue is if you're a federal contractor and you're not part of the program, you typically have to list every job. You have to make sure when you hire that you're considering every group, that you go through, that you're analyzing your job hires to make sure you're not having disparities based on race or gender. And with an Indian preference program, you can just hire Native Americans without having to do any of that. So it's a much quicker way of hiring.
Just streamlining the hiring process.
By a lot.
Okay, so like,
And also I was hoping Indian tribes would also be able to tell companies they want them to participate in the program. Use their bargaining power, you know. Say, look, you want to have contracts with us, well, you're a federal contractor, or are you part of the inner program? All the big companies, any big company you could think of in the United States is typically a federal contractor. So they could be doing these programs, and I just felt like we had underutilized this program.
I think Tara would be the perfect spot for you to go to pitch this. Seriously. So I'm the native PTAC for the state of South Dakota, right?
Okay.
So we really push on like the Kiwit to utilize the Indian Incentive Program. So then you get part of their like 5% or 10% of their bid added on at the end if they use a Native American contractor in one of their defense bids. So I think, like I said, going to Tara and really explaining this and flexing our sovereignty would probably make them
exactly what I'm hoping.
making them participate.
Let me give you a website. You want to learn more about
This guy has websites.
inner program? Apologize. Well, we have all the forms and stuff, but anyway, I should have brought them myself. I'm sorry.
Teresa.
No, it was not her fault. It's just-
Maybe in the back, feel like you're
Yes.
jail, right?
Yes. www.ofccp.INAERP. The easy way to look it up is go on Google and type in OFCCP, INAERP, OFCCP space INAERP, and it'll go right to our page. And there's a wealth of resources there. The other point that the commissioner mentioned, and one reason why we were told companies didn't want to have their name listed as part of this program, is because a lot of companies don't understand the difference between the political relationship between the United States and Native American tribes and race-based preferences. In this country, you're not allowed to have race-based preferences. So, for example, a company can't have quotas or targets to hire African Americans or Hispanic Americans or Asian Americans. They can't, that's not allowed. You can have goals, and you can't even favor in hiring any of those groups. If you hire someone based on their race, that's illegal, and it's something that we would stop. That's not true for Native Americans because it's not considered a race-based preference. It's considered really, in a sense, a political-based preference for the Indian tribe, for the federally recognized or state-recognized tribe. That's why you're able to do it, because of the historical relationship between the United States and Indian tribes. It's not considered a race-based preference. It's actually focused on your membership, not on your race. Yes.
Director, what if the tribe is the one that's acting as the contractor?
Well, they can also hire, that would allow
I know,
the
but I
tribe.
mean, how do you enforce that, or does the tribe have to enforce this on their own?
No, the tribe would be able to then hire only Native Americans. That's the idea.
Yeah, but I mean, the enforcement part of it.
The enforcement, well, what would happen is the way we do enforcement is if we get a complaint. So let's say it was an Indian tribe and you got a complaint from someone who was not part of the tribe who wasn't hired, and they said that they were discriminating against based on their race. We would look into it, and then we would say, no, that's not discrimination based on race because they're allowed to have a Native American preference. The other way we enforce, which is not really relevant to this program, but just so you know, because it's a good program. The way we typically enforce is every year we issue a list of several thousand companies and their particular establishments. Just so you know, there's 25,000 federal contractors, about 120,000 federal contractor establishments. So every federal contractor has 4 or 5 offices or factories or whatever it may be on average. Some have 30, some have a couple hundred, some have 1. The average is about 5. So every year out of that 120,000 different offices and factories that exist in the United States that are related to a federal contractor, we send out a list of about 3,000 now, places that we're going to do an audit. And we go in and we look at all their hiring, compensation, and promotion data, and we run regression analyses. So it's neutrally scheduled audit. We don't target or pick companies. We do it based on neutral criteria. And when your number comes up, then we take a look at it. And if we find a disparity, we take action. That's where we're going to try to be taking more action in favor of Native Americans. But that doesn't really help this program. That's 2 different things we're doing. One is trying to focus more on discrimination against Native Americans. That I commit to you we're doing. And I've seen more cases, and we're going to see even more. And 2, we're going to try to promote an Indian preference hiring program.
So to piggyback up with his question, say you're contracting with the tribe, say it's Mandarin, and one of the tribal members is claiming discrimination inside it. I probably already know the answer, but what would you do? How would you
If that contractor is contracting with the United States, it's not just the tribe. They have to be contracting with the United States. And we got a complaint of discrimination, we would investigate it. But the discrimination has to be based on one of the categories I mentioned before: race, color, sex, sexual orientation, gender identity, religion, or national origin, or disability or veteran status. We would investigate it.
You would.
And then that company might lose their federal contracting status if they are discriminating and they refuse to fix it. Anyhow, the main point is I wanted you to know about this program, INAERP. I wanted you to know that we have underutilized it, and I apologize for that. I'm trying to fix that. So please take a look at the program. Please encourage tribal leadership to learn about the program. Encourage contractors to participate in the program. We'll help them every step of the way. We'll set it up for them. That's Teresa's job, and she will do that, and she's wonderful. She's a member. She's a registered member of the tribe, and she is, in fact, she has devoted her life to basically this work. So she's very knowledgeable. And again, I'm sorry she couldn't be here today. She was just she's having something.
I just want to commend you for reaching out to, as we got in this position, reaching out to Admiral Wiaki at IHS and to myself, taking the initiative to say, hey, how can we move this forward? What can we do to really get the word out? Inviting us to go to a roundtable, coming to South Dakota, and it's your suggestions here that we hear today are really helpful on getting the word out. How do we get that word out? How do we encourage this more? So through the Carroll departments, what's a good suggestions? If you know of other conferences we should try to get to spread this word, please let us know. There's so many different things going on. A lot of times we don't know about conferences. So thank you, Courtney, for reaching out to us. But don't assume that we know of these big conferences. It might, we really want to hear from you how we can get out there and get this word out better.
Yes, and if there's any meetings you want us to go to, Teresa or myself, we're happy to do it. The administration has been very strongly supportive of this effort. We feel that this program needs to be utilized more. And so we could go to any sort of meeting that you would like us to. We want to promote the program. And I basically authorized Teresa to go anywhere. So again, she's wonderful. She knows a lot. Please contact her. I gave you the information and she'll help you.
Director, I'd like to thank you for coming out here and giving us this information as well. You know, years and years ago when I was at Carroll, we worked with OSTCP, and they didn't reach out nearly as much as what you're talking about now. As a matter of fact, it was really frustrating to work with them. So I just want to thank you for kind of stepping out of that and trying to provide more.
Thank you, thank you. I mean it. We want to see this program successful within a year. The goal is to have a list, contractors participate, and best practices, all sorts of things. I think you're going to be happy about it. But we were just starting the process. It was only a month ago that we started the process of feedback. So there's going to be a whole report that's published on our town hall that we had in Phoenix. It'll be on the website. We're going to continue doing these sort of meetings. And I think within a year or two, everyone will know about Anarch, hopefully. So, thank you.
Are you working with IHS, NPIA, and
We're going to try to do broader outreach too. We're just starting. That's the main.
I think this would be a really good kind of intro or during the TVEC meeting in November. That would be a decent. Try going to be budget.
We would love it.
Yeah, and that's where you can get representatives from all 500 tribes. That should be communicable from Jeannie Brooks.
Also here in part because Tom Dowd used to be the head of our agency. He was acting director of our agency. He's one of the highest, in addition to Commissioner Hogg, one of the highest serving Native Americans in the government. He's a registered member of God in this area. So I want to also honor him. His INERP was an important program to him. Is an important program today, even in fact, he also emailed me a video because I'm a big runner, and I'm in fact going to be running a Marine Corps marathon with my daughter, who has a very severe disability. She has autism and profound intellectualism. Loves running though. I push her. I mean, she's in a running wheelchair, but she loves it. She lets me pushing her, and she's wonderful. You know, we have a great time. We do it every weekend. We did 20 miles. Very proud to 16. We did 26 total last week. Anyhow, so I've done 9 marathons, but this is the first time pushing one. She's 14, and so Tom likes to send me. He also knows I'm a big cross country runner, and I like to brag about how fast I was. He always likes to send me these videos of the Hopi tribe and how the high school in that area of Arizona, I guess, has won the state title 27 years in a row and has some of the fastest cross-country runners in the United States. And he loves sending me those videos. They're very inspirational. And anyhow, so he was just emailing me about it again. But he's very proud of this program. So I also want to, he helped create the program. And so I want to bring it to the next level.
Should also mention in these brochures, there's a lot of information in this packet here. And we will have Teresa drop out all of the information that Teresa has so that it can be. And we will be at the powwow, just be in the crowd, kind of watching and observing. We know that the weather had a lot to do with Hope County being able to be here, but we are glad that you invited us.
Yes.
And we hope this is just the beginning of more dialogue. When you're in DC, please stop by visit with us. And again, let us know of big conferences like TVEC. And Twitter, we have our own Facebook. Department of Labor, do you have your own Facebook, or where do they go to?
We do. We have the Department of Labor has Facebook, I believe. I know we have, I'm not positive actually about that. I know we have Twitter.
Okay.
And we tweet lots of great information about the economy and the low unemployment rate and these different programs. So take a look at that. And our website has a wealth of information. So if you just go to OCCP website, you can see everything I told you, there's probably 5 to 10 times as much information. So,
So maybe at ANA, we can put something on our social media about this program, but other ways that you have ideas about how we can get the word out into your communities. I know it's been suggested and been, I believe, key radios here, that radio stations, travel radio stations are a great way to get information out. Social media, any other suggestions you have? I like the suggestion, with feedback, and also, I have mentioned this to, the Assistant Secretary Sweeney and, Mark Cruz, at Interior, and Jack Stevens with, IED, so we definitely want to get all of our partners.
that's the main point we're trying to get out. That's considered to be a positive. So we want companies.
Do you intend to keep all this someday and
Yes. Yes. If you look at our program, part of the purpose of the program, the inner program, is to help people looking for a job to be able to find one who are Native American. So that is part of the program. So we'd have a list, like right now with disability hiring programs, we have a list of them. We're adding to it every day. So that's another area where you can have a preference program. So that some companies do have disability hiring programs. They've agreed to do it. So it's worked in that area. So I thought it would work here too. The only obstacle here is that some companies have general counsel who tell them, well, don't have any preference program that touches on anything to do with race. Because they get so concerned that we're going to come in and make a finding that they were discriminating against based on race, but they're not. And that's the whole point. This is not race-based. It's, again, as I mentioned, it's based on the political relationship between the tribe and the United States and the treaties we have and the sovereignty of the tribes. That's what it's based on. So it's perfectly legal, and in fact, it's a good thing. It's encouraged. Companies should have, in my opinion, Native American preference hiring programs for work done near Indian reservations. So that's the message we're trying to bring.
Nice.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Appreciate your help. I'm sorry we don't have
Travel list, I want to live.